Let me take you back to the moment I died, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the moment I realized that the person I had become wasn't the person I was meant to be. We all die at some point in life. Not when the heart stops beating, but when the dream stops living, when the soul stops fighting, when the fire inside us is smothered by fear, failure, doubt, and the expectations of others. I died in a moment that looked so ordinary to the outside world. Just a quiet night, me, alone with my thoughts, but inside it was a war zone, a silent scream that no one could hear. I was drowning in my own excuses. I was buried under my own lies. I was surviving, not living. Smiling, not feeling. Functioning, not thriving. And I realized I was dead. Not because my life had ended, but because I had stopped participating in it. But let me tell you what happens when you die and come back. Not as the same person, but as someone reborn, someone forged through fire, someone who stopped asking for permission to live, someone who decided to take control. I came back with a vengeance. I came back hungry. I came back with a mission. See, life will test you in the most brutal ways. It won't ask for your permission. It'll crush your plans, betray your trust, shake your faith, break your heart. And if you let it, it'll break your spirit too. But hear me when I say this. You are not what happens to you. You are what you decide to become despite what happens to you. You see, pain is life's megaphone, and sometimes the only way the universe can wake you up is by breaking you down. That death, the one I went through, was necessary because I was asleep in my own life. I was waiting for a miracle when the miracle was already inside me. I was begging for someone to save me. When the person I needed to become was begging to be born. You think the world owes you peace. No, you must create peace. You must build it. You must earn it every single day by facing what scares you most. You think happiness is some destination you'll get to. No, happiness is a decision you make every time you get knocked down, every time you fall and choose to rise again, every time life whispers, give up, and you scream back, not today. I didn't come back to be average. I didn't come back to fit in. I came back to live like my life depends on it. Because it does. I started showing up differently. I stopped complaining. I stopped blaming. I stopped waiting for a sign and became the damn sign. I started asking better questions. What can I learn? How can I grow? Who must I become to turn this pain into power? And let me be clear, it wasn't overnight. You don't build a warrior in a weekend. You build a warrior in the trenches, in the dark, when no one's watching, when you're tempted to quit, when everything in you says this is too much, and you say, try me, that version of me that died. He had to. He was addicted to comfort, attached to validation, obsessed with perfection, afraid of failure. That version of me would have never made it. He didn't have the mindset. He didn't have the hunger. He didn't have the heart, but the new me. I'm alive. Every cell in my body burns with purpose. I've tasted the bottom. I've met the version of myself I never want to see again, and that's what drives me now. People ask me today, how did you change? I tell them I had no choice. It was either evolve or evaporate. When you've lost everything, you learn what actually matters. And when you come back from death, not physical, but the death of your spirit, you gain a kind of clarity that no textbook can give you. You begin to see that the limits weren't real, that the chains were in your mind, that the prison was your comfort zone, and you realize freedom is on the other side of fear, power is on the other side of pain, life is on the other side of death. I died, yes, but now I live loud. I live RBW. I live on my own terms. I speak my truth. I show up fully. I make noise. I feel everything. I fail often. I love hard. I live as if I've been given a second chance. Because I have. So what about you? What part of you needs to die so the real you can live? The version of you that's afraid to speak up. The one that keeps apologizing for dreaming big. The one that plays small so others feel comfortable. What part of you are you willing to bury today so that your greatness can rise, because you can't be reborn until you let go of the old you. Don't just listen to my story. Write your own comeback. Stand up. Speak louder, dream bigger, move faster, fall often, rise always. You've already survived your worst days. You've already buried parts of yourself that were never really you. Now it's time, come back. Come back to the fight. Come back to the dream. Come back to the truth. Come back to life, because you weren't born to just exist. You were born to come alive. You don't truly live until a part of you dies. That sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But it's the deepest truth I've come to know. Most people think living is about waking up, going through the motions, achieving milestones, hitting targets, making money, being liked. But that's not living, that's existing. True living begins when something inside of you is forced to break, to fall, to burn away. It's in that very moment, when the identity you once clung to crumbles in your hands, that something real starts to grow. We don't understand how much we're hiding behind until it's stripped from us. The masks, the roles, the labels, the fears, they all create this version of us that's easy to digest, easy to control, easy to maintain. But it's not who we are, it's who we learned to be so we could survive, and survival is not living, survival is half. Life, it's suppression, it's caution, it's calculated safety. Living is raw. Living is real. Living is being so aligned with your soul that you're willing to lose people, comfort, and security in order to stay true to it. When a part of you dies, maybe it's your ego, maybe it's your addiction to being right, maybe it's your need for validation or your fear of failure. That's the moment you step into the arena of real life. Not the life society designed for you, but the life you were meant to design from the inside out. That death is painful, of course. It feels like being ripped apart. It feels like losing control. It feels like you're being destroyed. But in reality, you're being refined. You're not breaking down. You're breaking open. Something greater is trying to emerge from within you, but it cannot come forth until the lesser version steps aside. The part of you that dies may be the part that kept you small, the one that doubted your worth, the one that said, play safe, the one that made decisions from fear instead of faith, and when that voice dies, when it loses its power over you, what's left is something quiet, strong, clear. What's left is you, the real you, the one you were before the world told you who you had to be, the one who dreams without limits, the one who acts from love, not lack, the one who speaks truth, not people, pleasing noise. This isn't something you read in a book and understand. It's something you go through. It's a storm you have to walk into. It's a fire you have to stand in, because there's no shortcut to authenticity. There's no path to your higher self that doesn't require you to shed the layers of your lower self. And the shedding isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's lonely. It's confusing. It tests everything you thought was true. But once you go through it, you never go back. You can't. You've seen too much, felt too much, awakened too much. That old version of you no longer fits. Some people never allow that part of them to die. They cling to comfort, control, and familiarity like a life raft. But the ones who live, the ones who really live, they let go. They surrender to the becoming. They trust the fall. They understand that death is not the end. It's the beginning of a deeper truth. They understand that in order to be born again, something must first be buried. The death of who you were gives birth to who you are becoming, and that new you doesn't walk. That new you runs, that new you doesn't ask, that new you declares, that new you doesn't beg for a seat, that new you builds the damn table. Your rebirth begins where your excuses end. It's easy to point fingers at the world, at the past, at other people, at circumstances. It's easy to build a wall of reasons why you're stuck, why you're tired, why you haven't begun. Excuses are seductive. They feel like protection. They give you something to lean on when responsibility feels too heavy. But the truth is, as long as you're making excuses, you're postponing your power. Every excuse you make is a brick in the prison of your own making, and here's the harsh part. Not one of those excuses will ever bring you peace. They'll only feed the lie that you're not ready, not good enough, not lucky enough, not strong enough. Excuses don't protect your potential. They destroy it silently, slowly, every single day. There comes a moment, though, when the noise in your head becomes louder than the voices around you. A moment when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. And in that moment, if you're brave enough to stop justifying your limitations, something inside you cracks open. It doesn't feel like motivation. It feels like clarity. It feels like truth rushing in. You start to see the pattern. You start to feel the cost. You start to recognize that every excuse you've made has only delayed your rebirth. Rebirth isn't dramatic. It doesn't always come with fireworks or applause. Sometimes it begins with a quiet decision that enough is enough. A decision that says, I don't care what happened before. I don't care who doubted me. I don't care what didn't work. That's when the rebirth begins. Not when you change everything overnight, but when you stop arguing for your limitations. When you stop giving energy to the old story. When you stop waiting for the perfect time and realize the perfect time was always a lie you told yourself to avoid risk. You cannot rise while still defending the reasons you're down. You cannot step into power while holding onto the script of your weakness. That version of you that lived in excuses had a purpose. It kept you safe. But safety and aliveness rarely live in the same room. Eventually you outgrow those excuses, like a snake outgrows its skin. And when you do, it's uncomfortable. You'll feel exposed. You'll feel unsure. You'll be tempted to go back, but rebirth isn't about comfort. It's about transformation, and transformation demands truth. The truth about what you've avoided, the truth about what you've blamed, the truth about how long you've known you were capable of more, but did nothing. Excuses die hard. They don't disappear without resistance. They'll dress up as logic, as realism, as responsibility. But if you listen closely, you'll hear fear beneath the surface. You'll hear the scared part of you trying to hold on. And you'll have to look that fear in the eye and say, not today. You'll have to choose to stop explaining why you haven't and start showing that you can. Because the moment you drop your excuses, you pick up your freedom. You pick up your accountability. You pick up your ability to shape your life, not just react to it. And that's where the real you begins, not the conditioned version, not the comfortable version, the raw, real, unfiltered version that was buried under years of avoidance. That version doesn't make excuses. That version makes moves. That version doesn't look for permission. That version creates possibilities. That version doesn't wait for a lifeline. That version becomes one. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. Most people run from pain like it's some kind of enemy, like it's here to destroy them. But pain isn't the enemy. It's the messenger. It's the mirror. It's the catalyst. Pain shows up when something needs to change. It comes when you've been ignoring the whispers and the signs. It comes when growth has been knocking and you've kept the door locked. And when it comes, it doesn't ask for your convenience. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It rips through your comfort, your plans, your illusions, because it's not interested in maintaining the version of you that's barely surviving. It wants to awaken the version of you that's capable of thriving. Pain has a way of cutting through the noise. It makes everything quiet. It forces you to stop pretending. It reveals who you are when the masks fall off, and that's where the preparation begins. You don't become strong in the light. You become strong in the darkness, in the nights you cry yourself to sleep, in the moments you question your worth, in the silence after the loss, the heartbreak, the failure. That's where something sacred is being built inside of you. That's where pain carves out the space for deeper strength, for sharper clarity, for unshakable faith. When everything feels like it's falling apart, what's actually happening is that everything false is being torn away. The beliefs that no longer serve you, the attachments that keep you stuck, the habits that drain your energy. Pain is the fire that burns away what you've outgrown, and yet it hurts, it challenges you. It stretches you, it brings you to your knees, but that's not to break you. That's to bend you in the direction of your purpose. That's to prepare you for what's next. That's to make sure you're not carrying the weight of your past into a future that demands your full power. Think about it. The most powerful people you've ever known didn't get there by skipping the pain. They got there by walking through it, by allowing it to refine them, by asking what it's here to teach rather than cursing its arrival. Pain doesn't come to destroy your life. It comes to demand your attention. It comes to open your eyes. It comes to clear the path. And if you listen, if you lean in, you'll find it's not here to punish you, it's here to prepare you. For the next level, for the next chapter, for the version of you that you were always meant to become, there's a kind of wisdom that only pain can bring, a kind of courage that only suffering can reveal, a kind of peace that only comes after the storm. You don't get those gifts from easy. You get them from enduring, from breaking, from healing. You get them from rising when everything inside you says stay down. You get them from choosing to believe that this moment, no matter how hard, is working for you, not against you. That belief alone is the shift. That's the difference between being crushed and being created. Preparation is a process. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't feel good. But it's sacred. It's divine. It's part of the design. You're not being punished for wanting more. You're being shaped to hold it. You're not being punished for dreaming big. You're being stretched to sustain it. The delay, the detour, the disappointment, it's all preparation. Every tear, every scar, every fall, it's carving capacity. It's building depth. It's strengthening your foundation so that when the breakthrough comes, you won't collapse under the weight of it. The old you must die for the real you to rise. There's a version of you that was built for survival, crafted carefully through years of fear, rejection, disappointment, and noise. That version became your armor, your protection, your identity. It helped you get through the storms, but it also kept you from flying. It became a cage painted to look like comfort. And as long as you keep clinging to that version, the real you will always be buried underneath. The truth is, the life you're meant to live can't coexist with the identity you've outgrown. Something has to give. Something has to end so something greater can begin. The break, through your waiting for, won't come through more effort, it'll come through release. Release of who you thought you had to be. Release of the roles you've been playing. Release of the expectations you've carried for so long they feel like your personality. Growth demands a funeral, not of your body, but of your limitations. Of the lies you tell yourself, of the excuses you've made comfortable, the old you, the one who avoids hard conversations, who fears rejection, who seeks validation in every move, that version can't lead the life your soul is craving. And deep down, you already know this. That's why you feel the internal war. That's why the things that once satisfied you now feel empty. That's why you're tired. Not just physically, but spiritually. Because you're carrying an identity that was only meant to be temporary. And the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. Transformation isn't just about adding more to your life. It's about subtracting what no longer belongs. The process is uncomfortable. It will feel like you're losing yourself when in fact you're finally meeting yourself. You'll mourn the old habits, the familiar patterns, the false security. You'll question if you're doing the right thing. You'll feel alone in the in-between. But this is where the magic happens. In the space between the death of the old and the rise of the new, you'll discover who you really are. Without the noise, without the mask, without the layers. The real you doesn't seek safety in smallness. The real you doesn't water down truth to be accepted. The real you isn't afraid of the unknown, because the unknown is where all possibility lies. But you can't step into that version of yourself if you're still negotiating with the past. You can't become who you were born to be while defending who you were taught to be. That's the paradox. That's the price of evolution. You don't get both. You don't get comfort and greatness. You don't get control and growth. You don't get to stay the same and rise higher. So when life starts to strip away what you thought was essential, let it. When people walk away, when plans fall apart, when identities begin to crumble, don't resist. These are the signs that the old you is making room for something greater. This is the death that precedes the rebirth, the shedding that reveals the soul, the unraveling that leads to the rise. You weren't meant to stay stuck in a version of yourself that was built just to cope. You weren't meant to live on repeat. You were meant to evolve, to expand, to elevate, and sometimes the only way forward is through the fire, not around it, not over it, but through it. The fire burns away what's false. It exposes what's real. It destroys what's weak so strength can be revealed. That's the gift inside the struggle. That's the invitation inside the pain. It's asking you, are you ready to let go of the old story so you can rise into the new one? Your comeback is louder than your collapse. People see the fall, the breakdown, the silence, the space where you disappeared. They whisper about the failure, the mess, the chaos that left you breathless and broken. But they don't know what's being built in that silence. They don't see the inner battles you fought when no one was watching. They don't see the strength being born in the dark, the clarity being carved from confusion, the power being forged from pain. Collapsing isn't the end, it's the beginning of something more real, more raw, more relentless. The collapse is the clearing, the necessary shaking of foundations that were never meant to last. It's the storm that tears down what's weak, so that what's strong can rise without apology. The world teaches us to fear the fall. It tells us that once we're down, we're done, that failure means you've lost, that breaking means you're broken, that retreating means you've been defeated. But what the world forgets is that collapse isn't final, it's fertile. It's the space where roots grow deeper, where resilience is born, where the fire is reignited. You may have been knocked down, but you weren't knocked out. You may have bent, but you didn't break for good. What collapsed was the illusion. What fell apart was the lie. What cracked open was the shell that no longer fit. Comebacks aren't glamorous at first. They begin in silence. They begin in tears, in therapy, in prayer, in journaling, in solitude, in choosing every day to move 1 inch forward when your mind is screaming to give up. They begin in the messy middle, when you're rebuilding your mindset brick by brick. And while the collapse might echo for a moment, the comeback will echo for a lifetime, because when you rise, really rise, you don't come back as who you were, you come back as someone who has touched the bottom and found solid ground. You come back wiser, tougher, clearer. You come back no longer asking for permission, but claiming space with conviction. The beauty of the comeback is that it doesn't care how far you fell. It only cares how deep you're willing to dig to rise. The further the fall, the more powerful the rise, because now there's fuel, now there's fire, now there's a reason that wasn't there before. Now you're no longer operating from ego or approval. You're driven by purpose. And purpose doesn't fade. Purpose doesn't apologize. Purpose doesn't wait. There will be those who only remember your fall, but there will also be those who are inspired by how you rose. Your comeback gives permission for others to heal. It gives hope to those who think they're too far gone. It shows the ones who are barely holding on that their strength hasn't left them. It's just hidden under the weight of their own self-doubt. Every time you rise, you remind someone else that rising is possible. Every time you speak truth, you silence shame. Every time you take one more step, you break the illusion that pain has the final word. You don't need to explain your collapse. You don't need to defend your breakdown. What matters is how you respond. What matters is that you kept breathing, kept believing, kept going even when you had every reason to stop. That's where the comeback is born, in those moments of quiet power when the world isn't watching, but your soul is. And when the world does see you again, they'll see someone who didn't just survive the fire, they became it. They'll hear the volume of your comeback, and they'll know it's louder than any fall you ever took.